You have been taught a lie. Everything you believe about God, about prayer, about achieving peace and abundance is based on a fundamental misconception of what you are and where God is. You have been looking outside yourself for a savior, seeking in the world for a solution that can only be found within the very fabric of your own being. This is not a teaching for the mind. It is a revelation for the soul. What you are about to hear reveals the great and final illusion that binds humanity to suffering and lack. Stay with this, and you will discover the one thing, the only thing you will ever need to know. For your entire life, you have been conditioned to look for it out there. You pray to a distant God in a far-off heaven. You seek solutions in the circumstances of the world. You chase after better conditions, more money, improved relationships, as if these external things hold the key to your inner peace. This is the great error, the foundational misconception that perpetuates the cycle of lack, fear, and struggle. It is the very bedrock of the human dilemma. The moment you believe the cause of your experience lies outside of your own consciousness, you have rendered yourself a victim, a slave to the ever-changing winds of the world. You have given your power away to a universe of effects, forgetting that you are, in truth, the center from which all experience springs. Consider the simple, daily act of feeling offended or hurt by someone's words. The entire world would tell you that the cause of your pain lies in what that person said. You are the effect. Their words are the cause. But this is the illusion. The pain does not reside in the syllables they uttered. It resides in a place within you that is receptive to that pain. A belief within your own consciousness that agrees with the insult, that fears it might be true, that has a vested identity in being wounded. The external event is merely the trigger. The gunpowder is within your own mind. The world, in its relentless mirroring, simply shows you what you already are, what you already believe about yourself. When you feel lack, you do not feel it because your bank account is small. You experience a small bank account because you are rooted in a consciousness of lack. The outer condition is always a perfect manifestation of the inner state. This is not a philosophy to be debated. It is a radical reorientation of being that must be felt and realized. Think of it this way. You are sitting in a movie theater, completely absorbed in the drama unfolding on the screen. The hero is in peril, and your heart races. The villain is triumphant, and you feel anger. For those 2 hours, the screen is your reality. You believe the images and sounds are causing your emotional state. But what if you were to turn around? What if you were to see the projector, the single, silent source of the light that casts all those images? In that moment of turning, your entire relationship to the movie changes. You are no longer a victim of the plot. You understand its source. The drama on the screen hasn't changed, but you have changed. You know it is a projection. Your life is that movie. The world you see with your physical eyes, your body, your home, your job, your relationships, is the screen. And your own consciousness, the accumulated beliefs, fears, and truths you hold within is the projector. To seek to change the images on the screen by manipulating the screen itself is a futile endeavor. You can rearrange the characters, you can paint over the colors, but until you address the film rolling through the projector, new, perhaps even more troubling, images will simply take their place. This is why so many find themselves on a relentless treadmill. They get the new job only to find new anxieties. They acquire the money only to discover new fears of loss. They enter the new relationship only to project old wounds onto a new partner. The scenery changes, but the story remains the same because the source of the story has not been touched. This understanding is the first and most critical key because it calls you home. It demands that you cease the frantic search in the external and begin the profound and quiet journey within. It is here, in the depths of your own being, in the realm of pure consciousness, that the cause of all experience resides. God is not a separate entity to be found. God is the very substance and source of your awareness, the I am that you are. To look for God in the sky or in a distant heaven is to miss the point entirely, for the kingdom of God is within you. It is the projector itself. When you begin to turn your attention from the screen of effects to the source of your own awareness, you initiate the only transformation that has any lasting meaning. You are no longer a leaf tossed on the river of circumstance, but you begin to discern the river's very source. This is not about positive thinking or willing better conditions into existence. That is merely a more sophisticated form of manipulating the images on the screen. This is about a fundamental awakening to what you are, an awakening that, by its very nature, transforms every image the projector casts, not because you change the images, but because you change the light by which they are seen. This realization that the cause is within and not without naturally leads to a profound and urgent question. If the kingdom is not out there, but within, what is its nature and how do we access it? The mind, trained for a lifetime in seeking and striving, immediately sets to work. It assumes that this kingdom is a prize to be won, a state to be achieved through some new form of effort. It begins a new search, an inner search, for a feeling, an experience, a flash of light, something it can label as God and claim as its own accomplishment. But this, too, is a subtle trap, a continuation of the same old pattern of pursuit dressed in spiritual clothing. The critical, life-altering truth is that the kingdom of God is not something to be built, earned, or constructed. It is an established reality. It is already present, already complete, already functioning as the very core of your being. Your task is not one of creation, but of recognition, not of achievement, but of surrender to what has always been true. Think of the air you breathe. It is all around you, a boundless resource, sustaining your life at every moment. You do not beg for it. You do not plead with it to enter your lungs. You do not perform rituals to make yourself worthy of it. You simply, naturally receive it. You open yourself to it, and it flows. The air is an established reality. Your only requirement is to not block its flow, to not hold your breath until you turn blue. The kingdom of God is like that. It is the infinite spiritual substance, the divine consciousness. That is the source of your life, intelligence, and being. It is not withholding itself from you. The problem is that we are holding our breath spiritually. We are clenched tight with our own efforts, our own plans, our own beliefs about what should be happening and how it should look. Consider a person sitting in a dark room, longing for light. They stumble about, bruising themselves on furniture, straining their eyes to see in the gloom. They may even pray for light, begging God to flip a celestial switch. All the while, they are sitting on a chair, and right next to their hand is a lamp. The wiring is intact, the bulb is in place, the power is flowing through the walls. The light is an established reality available in an instant. The only action required is to reach out and turn the knob. The light does not need to be created. It needs to be acknowledged and activated. Our situation is identical. We are surrounded by the ever-present light of spirit, but we are fumbling in the darkness of our own thoughts, beliefs, and misconceptions. We are waiting for a flash of lightning from the sky when the switch is located within the quiet recesses of our own awareness. This is why all striving is ultimately fruitless. Striving implies a lack, a distance between you and your goal. It reinforces the very sense of separation that causes the suffering in the first place. When you strive for peace, you are affirming that you do not have peace. When you strive for abundance, you are standing in the consciousness of lack. You are, in effect, trying to get from the outside what you already are on the inside. The peace you seek is not a future event contingent on world peace or a quiet household. It is the very nature of the kingdom within, a stillness that exists prior to the storm of your thoughts. The supply you need is not a sum of money that must be manufactured and delivered to you. It is the infinite creative substance of the universe, which is the core of your identity, and it manifests as the form required for the need at hand, be it an idea, an opportunity, or a tangible resource. To recognize the kingdom as an established reality is to release the tremendous burden of being the creator of your own good. It is to lay down the exhausting weight of personal responsibility that says, I must figure this out. I must make this happen. I must heal myself. I must become spiritual. This does not lead to passivity, but to a profound and active trust. It shifts your entire focus from trying to build a kingdom to allowing the already present kingdom to express itself through you as your life. You stop trying to compose the symphony and instead become the instrument through which the divine symphony is played. The music is already written. The melody is eternal. Your work is to get yourself, your fears, your will, your sense of a separate I out of the way, to tune your strings so that you do not distort the perfect notes. The harmony, the abundance, the peace, and the wholeness are not your personal achievements. They are the natural, inevitable evidence of a life lived in the conscious recognition of the kingdom within. They are the light that automatically shines when you have stopped blocking it with the shadow of your own sense of lack and separation. If the kingdom is an established reality within, then the question of how we interact with it becomes the most practical matter of our existence. The mind, conditioned by a world of action and reaction, immediately assumes that the next step is a new form of asking. We have been taught to pray as a form of petition, to bring our lists of desires and needs to a distant God and plead for intervention. This is the ultimate expression of the illusion of separation, and it is the very barrier that prevents the realization of the kingdom. True prayer is not an activity of speaking, but a state of listening. It is not about informing God of your needs, for the Father knows what you have need of before you ask. It is about stilling the constant chatter of the mind, the endless stream of wants and fears, and becoming receptive to the divine consciousness that is already your life. Imagine you are trying to hear a faint, beautiful piece of music playing in a quiet room, but you are shouting, listing all the reasons you want to hear the music, describing the kind of music you would prefer, and complaining about the noise you heard yesterday. Your own noise is all you can hear. The music is present. It is filling the room. But you are unaware of it because you are not in a state to receive it. You are in a state of broadcast, not reception. Petitionary prayer is precisely this kind of shouting. It reinforces the sense of a you here and a God out there. And it keeps your attention focused on the problem, on the lack, on the desire. It keeps you tuned to the station of your own ego. To shift into true prayer is to turn down the volume of the self. It is to become silent, to become quiet, to listen with every fiber of your being for the still, small voice that is not a voice at all, but a palpable sense of presence, a knowing, a flow of intelligence and life that has been there all along. Consider a gardener who desires a harvest. The gardener does not stand in the field and shout at the seeds, begging them to grow. He does not pull on the tiny shoots to make them taller. He understands that the potential for the full, grown plant is already established within the seed. His work is to create the conditions for that inherent potential to unfold. He prepares the soil, he provides water, he ensures access to sunlight. He then steps back in trust, allowing the intelligence of life itself to do the work of growth that is beyond his personal capacity to command. Your consciousness is the soil. The established kingdom is the seed containing all the potential for your life. The act of receptive prayer is the preparation of that soil, the weeding out of fearful thoughts, the watering with gratitude, the letting in of the light of awareness. You are not creating the harvest. You are aligning your consciousness with the creative principle that already contains the perfect blueprint for your fulfillment. This is why meditation is not an escape from life, but the most potent engagement with its source. In the silence, when you consciously release every thought of what you need, what you want, and what you fear, You are not doing nothing. You are performing the highest form of spiritual activity. You are tuning your instrument to the frequency of the divine. You are, in essence, turning from the screen of effects and facing the projector. In that stillness, something miraculous occurs. It is not that God hears you better. It is that you finally hear God. Insights arise not from your personal memory, but from a deeper well of wisdom. A sense of peace descends that has no relationship to your external circumstances. A feeling of boundless life flows through you, independent of the body's condition. This is the evidence that you have made contact. This is the flow of the kingdom into expression. The answers to your unspoken needs will then appear as naturally as the plant appears from the seed. They will come as spontaneous right action, as unexpected supply, as harmonious relationships, not as a reward for your pleading, but as the natural, inevitable fruit of a consciousness that has become a clear and open channel for the infinite. Your life ceases to be a series of problems to be solved by a separate you, and becomes a continuous unfoldment of a divine pattern, witnessed and experienced by a you that has remembered its true nature as the very being of God. This state of receptive listening, of inner silence, inevitably brings about a profound and startling discovery about the nature of your own being. As the noise of the personal self, with its fears, its desires, its history, begins to recede, what remains is not a void, not an emptiness, but a palpable sense of presence, a conscious awareness that was previously obscured. In the deepest moments of this stillness, a realization dawns that is so simple and so fundamental that the mind, in its complexity, has completely overlooked it. You discover that the I that you have always taken to be yourself, the I that has a name, a story, a collection of problems, is not the ultimate reality. Behind that temporary, constructed identity, there is a more fundamental I. This I is not a person, it is pure being, pure consciousness. It is the very same I am that is the name of God. The I of your being and the I of the Father are one. This is not a theological concept to be believed. It is a living truth to be realized in the depths of your own silence that says, I am tired, I am afraid, I am wealthy, or I am poor, is the temporary costume worn by the one eternal actor. The actor itself. The awareness that is aware of the tiredness, the fear, the wealth, or the poverty is untouched by these changing conditions. It is the silent witness, the unmoved mover, the canvas upon which the painting of your personal life appears. When you say, I am, before you add any qualifier, in that pristine moment of pure being, you are speaking from the very center of the kingdom. You are uttering the name of God. The great spiritual journey is the process of shifting your sense of identity from the costume to the actor, from the painting to the canvas, from the qualified I to the pure, unqualified I am. Consider the ocean and a wave. The wave has a temporary, individual existence. It has a beginning, a peak, and an end. It can be tall or short, powerful or gentle. It can call itself a big wave or a small wave. But at no point is it ever separate from the ocean. Its very substance is ocean water. Its energy is the ocean's energy. To believe itself to be only a separate, individual wave is a beautiful, temporary illusion. Its true identity, its power, its very existence is the ocean itself. You are that wave. The personal I, with all its stories, is the temporary form. The pure I am is the ocean of divine consciousness. Your suffering arises when the wave fears its own dissolution. Not realizing it can never be anything other than the ocean. Your sense of lack arises when the wave believes it is only its temporary form and forgets the infinite resource of its own true substance. In practical terms, this means that every challenge you face is an opportunity to remember this truth. When a problem arises, whether it is a health issue, a financial strain, or a relational conflict, the entire world and your own trained mind will pull you into the drama of the wave. It will demand that you identify with the problems. I am sick. I am broke. I am betrayed. The transformative work is to consciously withdraw your identity from that statement. You learn to still the mind and go behind the qualification to the source. You abide in the I am. From that place of pure being, you can then look at the condition without being the condition. You are no longer a sick person, but the infinite I am, witnessing appearance of sickness in the body. You are no longer a person in lack, but the abundant I am, observing a temporary belief in limitation. This shift in identity does not magically erase the appearance all at once, though it can. What it does, without fail, is to rob the appearance of its power over you. It removes the fuel of your belief that fed it. It allows the infinite resource of the ocean to flow into the temporary form of the wave, restoring it, harmonizing it, and ultimately revealing the appearance for what it always was, a temporary pattern on the surface of an eternal, unchanging reality. You stop trying to fix the wave with the wave's own limited power, and you instead allow the ocean to be the ocean. Your life becomes not a battle to be fought by a separate self, but a spontaneous and harmonious expression of the one divine I that you are, this realization of your true identity as the one. I am completely revolutionizes your relationship with the world you perceive. Up until this point, you have lived as an effect of the world, buffeted by its storms, dependent on its approval, and terrified by its threats. You have believed the world to be the cause, and you the effect. But from the standpoint of your oneness with the Father, this perception is inverted. The outer world, in all its forms and circumstances, is not a cause, it is an effect. It is not a power acting upon you, but a projection, a manifestation, an outpicturing of the activity taking place within the realm of consciousness. The world is the screen, and consciousness is the projector. To believe otherwise is to remain forever a victim, a slave to the images you yourself are casting. This is the most challenging principle for the human mind to accept, for it calls into question the very solidity of the reality we have always taken for granted. We look at a mountain and see a permanent, immovable object. We look at a bank account and see a fixed amount. We look at a diseased body and see an unchangeable fact. But the mountain, the bank statement, and the body are all effects. They are the final, solidified expression of a process that began in the invisible realm of consciousness. The mountain exists as a mountain because of certain geological laws and processes which are themselves expressions of a universal divine mind. Your bank account is a number reflecting a specific set of beliefs, actions, and energies rooted in your own consciousness of supply or lack. Your body is the most intimate and immediate outpicturing of your inner state of being. Your thoughts, your fears, your acceptance of life, and your understanding of your own identity. Consider a dream. While you are in the dream, everything seems utterly real. The people you meet have their own independent wills. The situations are urgent and compelling. The dangers are terrifying. The joys are ecstatic. The dream world appears to be the cause of your experience. But the moment you awaken, you understand with perfect clarity that the entire dream world, with all its characters and dramas, was an effect. It was a projection from your own mind. Nothing in that dream had any reality or power independent of the consciousness that was dreaming it. Your waking life is no different in its essential nature. It is a collective dream, a projection of consciousness onto the screen of human experience. When you change the film in the projector, when you shift your consciousness from a sense of separation to the awareness of your oneness with the Father, the images on the screen must change accordingly. They have no choice, for they have no independent existence. This is why all attempts to solve problems by manipulating the outer world are ultimately temporary and frustrating. It is like trying to change a movie by painting over the screen. You might temporarily alter the color of an image, but the underlying story remains the same, and the projector will soon cast new images that conform to the original film. A person who comes into money through luck or inheritance, but whose inner consciousness is still rooted in lack and fear, will quickly find themselves back in financial difficulty. The outer effect was temporarily altered, but the inner cause remained, and it soon projected a new effect that matched its nature. Conversely, when an individual, through a profound inner shift, realizes their identity as the infinite, I am, their consciousness of lack is dissolved. This change in the cause must, by spiritual law, produce a corresponding change in the effect. Supply may not always appear in the expected form of a suitcase of cash, but it will appear as the right opportunity, the dissolved obstacle, the unexpected solution, the exact form needed for the fulfillment of the individual's experience of abundance. Therefore, your work is never with the effect. Your work is always and only with the cause, which is your own state of consciousness. When you behold a problem in the outer world, whether it is a global conflict or a personal pain, you are not beholding a power to be defeated. You are beholding a shadow, an echo, an effect. The only power it has is the power you give it by believing in its reality and its causality. the moment you turn away from the effect and turn within to the cause. To the truth of your being as one with the infinite, harmonious, and whole Father, you begin to withdraw the power from the shadow. You are not fighting the darkness on the screen. You are turning on the light in the projector room. The darkness never was a substance. It was only the absence of light. So too, your problems are not solid entities. They are the absence of the conscious realization of the truth. As you abide in the cause, the effects in your life must reorganize themselves to reflect the harmony, peace, and perfection of their source. This entire journey, from the initial recognition of the inner kingdom to the understanding of the world as effect, culminates in a final, critical point that distinguishes intellectual agreement from actual demonstration. It is the difference between reading a map of a territory and actually setting foot on the soil. This is not a teaching to be learned, not a philosophy to be memorized and repeated. The mind can grasp these principles, agree with their logic, and even teach them to others, all while remaining in a state of complete separation and suffering. The mind is part of the effect, part of the world of form, and it cannot comprehend its own source. Therefore, this is a conscious oneness to be realized. It is an actual, lived experience of your identity as the one divine consciousness, a state of being where the sense of a separate you dissolves into the living truth of the I am, and from that merged state, life is lived spontaneously, harmoniously, and without personal effort. Think of learning to swim. You can read every book ever written on the subject. You can understand the physics of buoyancy, the mechanics of different strokes, and the theory of breathing. You can have the finest instructor explain it all to you in perfect detail. But until you are in the water, and you surrender your frantic flailing to the natural support of the water, until you have the actual felt experience of being held up not by your own effort, but by a power greater than yourself, you have not learned to swim. All the knowledge in the world is useless until it is transcended by a direct, non-intellectual knowing in your very being. This teaching is the same. You can become a master of the terminology, a brilliant speaker on the principles, but if it remains a concept in your head, it is a dead thing. The moment of realization is when you stop trying to swim by the power of your personal self and you let the ocean of spirit carry you. It is a shift from doing to being, from thinking to knowing, from striving to allowing. This is why the personal sense of self, the little that claims to be the author of its own life, is the final barrier. It is the part of you that wants to take credit for the demonstration, that wants to say, I meditated correctly, therefore I achieved peace, or I understood the principle, therefore I manifested supply. This very claiming is the reassertion of separation. It is the wave claiming it generated the ocean. True realization leaves no one left to claim the prize. When a healing occurs, when a harmony is restored, when a creative solution appears, it does not happen because you, as a separate entity, performed a spiritual technique that forced a result. It happens when the sense of you as a separate operator becomes so quiet, so transparent, that the infinite intelligence and life of the Father flow through without obstruction. There is no you doing it. There is only it being itself as all that is. Your daily life then becomes the only workshop you will ever need. It is not about retreating from the world to find this state, but about bringing this state of conscious oneness to every moment of the world. When you are stuck in traffic, the practice is not to repeat spiritual statements, but to release the personal you that is frustrated and late, and to abide as the silent, unmoved I am, for which traffic is merely a pattern of light and color, a temporary appearance. When you receive a difficult diagnosis, the work is to cease identifying as the sick person and to rest, even for a moment, in the truth of your being as whole and perfect consciousness, untouched by the appearances of the form it inhabits. This is not denial, it is aligning with a higher reality. From that aligned state, right action will arise spontaneously. Perhaps a sudden intuition to call a certain doctor, a deep sense of peace that influences the body's own healing mechanisms, or a clarity that dissolves fear. The action will not be yours. It will be the Father's, expressed through the form that you are. This is the end of the spiritual path, because it is the end of the path of the seeker. The seeker vanishes in the finding. There is no longer a you and God. There is only the singular, divine is-ness expressing infinitely. The peace you feel is not your peace. It is the peace of God. The love you express is not your love. It is God loving as you. The intelligence you express is not your limited human mind, but the infinite mind knowing as you. You do not become God in a cosmic sense. You realize that you, in your true identity, never were anything else. The separate self was a dream, a phantom, a temporary condensation of thought upon the infinite and eternal canvas of being. And when this is realized, not as a thought, but as the very substance of your existence, life ceases to be a problem to be solved and becomes a glorious, effortless unfolding of the divine pattern, witnessed and enjoyed by the awareness that you are, an awareness that has finally come home to itself.